So the question is what is the biggest difference between female business training and the traditional business training that we see out there? So a lot of what we teach is the female side of business training, but a lot of the training that's out there is your traditional business training. So for those that haven't met me, hi, my name is Chef Katrina. I'm one of the co-founder, co-creators of Truth Bomb Academy, where we create fun and play for women that are in the business world. Too often, for too long, we've been following a systematic approach to business. Well, it's worked. I'm not saying it hasn't. Well, it's extremely worked for us to build out million-dollar companies. What we're starting to notice is that women that are building the traditional way are burning out faster, struggling to maintain their business overall, and really feel good about themselves and how they're building their business. So, and also looking at it all the time. So we're here to recreate, have fun, and reimagine how play is added into the world of female business.
Ah, I love it. My name is Heidi Mumon. I'm also one of the co-founders here, and I love to talk about your finances. Yeah, I know it's not usually people's favorite conversation, but I love to see inside of businesses for actually to take your profit and to realize profit and to pay yourself instead of constantly feeding your business and constantly reinvesting into your business. There always has to be a part of it that you take as profit because that's what makes business fun when you actually get paid. Otherwise, it's just charity work.
Oh, drop that truth bomb again. It's just charity work if you're just not going to get paid for this. All right, keep going.
Well, my name is Karen Angeli. I'm one of the co-founders as well. And I am all about just helping you create more fun in your business at the end of the day. So, yay!
I like fun in business. I really do.
I like to feel good about the business. That's really what matters. And I feel like that's really what points back to what the difference is between the traditional business building and what we're creating. We're really, like, in my opinion, we're creating something where it's like, how are you actually feeling about this, though? Do you actually enjoy this? Are you actually having a good time? Or is this just a struggle for you to do all the time? And so for me, I don't want to build a business like that anymore. I'm just so uninterested in that. I just want to actually enjoy the whole process again. So, yeah.
Well, and the reason I brought this topic up because I know that there's a lot of training. This is the beginning of the year. This is also a time when people seem to have a little extra money. They're getting their tax refunds back. So I'm just going to be totally straight honest. This is a marketing like business dream time right now because of the fact that we want to put products and offers in front of you. So of course, because we teach business education and training right here from the female perspective, guess what's all in my newsfeed right now? Lots of different business schools, trainings to be attending right now. Like it is flooding the market. And I know I'm seeing it probably a lot more than most people are because of the conversations I'm having out on social media and everything else. But the fun part is to kind of go through and just look at the overall structure of how they're teaching business. And what's interesting for me is that nobody's touching or accounting for that there is a significant difference between how women create and run businesses and how men run and create businesses, and where we need to be in more communication to help each other really fine-tune language, fine-tune our processes so that we're not burning out as women. That's a big piece of the puzzle. Burnout is real. I've met some very successful women that have built $1 million businesses, and then 3 to 4 years later, it's like unsustainable. And even some of them, like the big people I've seen, have talked about how they've closed doors, burnt out business, trying to find better ways to build businesses than what's traditionally taught to us in business creation. So it's been interesting.
So I was listening to a podcast of one of my favorite mentors, and he was talking about the difference between creating on a physical level. So creating in the 3D reality. A lot of times in 3D reality, we have to work in order to receive, right? Like there's a lot of like hustle, grind, a lot of what is being taught in the traditional business world. There's a different kind of creativity though that you can actually tap into that I personally have been tapping into, especially within 2023. I really, really honed in this skill, I believe, and I'm continuing to do so. But the other type of creativity is creating, if you want to call it the quantum, creating from source, creating from not physical reality. When I say the quantum, I'm basically referring to a field of energy, right? Okay, so this might be a little out there for you ladies, but this is a true reality. Like wherever you are in your spiritual walk, whether you are Christian or anything else, we all tend to have some belief. Now, there are some people obviously that don't, but there's some belief in a higher power, right? So that's what I'm talking about, tapping into that source energy, that quantum energy, and actually having a connection with it, right? So that's the second way to create. So on the podcast, the person that was interviewing him was asking him, so what's like, how do you know when you're tapping into that creative source energy or you're just working? Like, what's the difference? And what he said was so beautiful and so true to what I feel deep in my soul is that like when he's actually, and he like, I don't know if he air quoted working, but it was like when I'm working, it's more of an immersive thing. Like I actually immerse myself into an understanding of something. I immerse so deeply. So for example, meditation. Immerse so deeply in something like meditation, I get so good at it. I get so lost in the act of doing this thing that I don't even feel like I'm working. And this is something that there's a quote, I forget the guy's name, but Katrina, you probably remember the name, but talks about where you can't tell the difference of whether you're working or playing. I feel like that's really like that's the piece of the puzzle that so many of us miss. And even while building Truth Bomb, I've missed it a lot of times too, still. I still catch myself going back to this old program of I feel like I have to work, 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 work in order to make something happen. And that is so not true. And so every time I catch myself, that's a win, in my opinion. Every time I stop myself from continuing down that old program of thinking that I have to work, 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 I have to burn out in order to create that success, I'm winning when I catch that because I slow myself down. I notice, I slow myself down and I say, I don't want to work like that. And I don't have to. I can enjoy all of the process of what's going on right now. I can actually experience it fully. And it was just a really good reminder watching that interview, a really good reminder of how do you want to build a business? Here's the thing, I'm not going to fault you if you're like, I want to hustle grind. I love that. That makes me happy. That actually is what I'm talking about. Like it brings you joy to have the hustle and grind. For myself, I know that I want to create and go, how the hell did that happen? That's freaking fun. That's enjoyable. And I want to actually still have my life be a part of everything as well. Because I used to build a business where I would work from 8 a.m. until God knows when at night. And it would be like, I wouldn't have time for anything else in between. And I personally don't enjoy that. There are people that absolutely do. But for me, and I think for a lot of women, that there's really not the ability to do that. So,
and it's interesting because we were at a meeting the other day with an incredible group of women. And it's so interesting when you listen to them talk, there are so many things women have their fingers in, right? And a lot of it's around doing good in the world. So whether it's helping back with the children, whether it's helping back the homeless, whether it's helping vets, whether it's helping so many different groups, and we all look at how do we help serve, how do we help taken care of, right? And so what's interesting for me is like when we talk to these women, how much they want to do more, right? It is in their nature to give and to want to do better, make the world better. And what's interesting and what I also hear, even myself say this a lot, is like, I have to do this. I'm going to be doing this. I don't want to work that way. And what I think we lose sight of as women is that we have a whole team around us that will allow us to do more if we start collaborating, right? When we actually lean on other people, when we learn how to build out teams, when we learn how to connect and let other people be in their genius, then it stops being an I and it becomes a we. And you're much more powerful, as we've discovered with women, when we start collaborating together, we actually achieve more. So when you have the mentality as a female of, I have to do this, I've got to be the one that makes this difference, and you have your ego play into it at such a competitive level that you miss the point of what you're creating and looking at how do you make it go beyond you. And I think this is one of the interesting things about working with women specifically is that we take on so much responsibility ourselves. We take on the home, we take on the family, we take on, taking care of our parents. Like it's a generational thing. And yet when I was there at this meeting, there was a gentleman there, Muhammad, and he talks about how in their culture, the sons do take care of the family. They're the ones that are making sure. And at the same time, that does impact his wife because now she's a caregiver for a set of parents, also because that's part of their culture. So there's a lot of things that are put on us as women that we either just accept and say, okay, that's what's the norm. And there's also what we look at. It's like, okay, it takes a community. And I hear this all the time. I think this was one of the phrases that kept coming up at this women's meeting was it takes a community to build a business. And I think we say that as women. I think we all say it because I remember hearing myself say it quite a bit. But the question is are we actually tapping into that village? Are we absolutely tapping into their genius so that we can create more rest in our lives, so that we can live in our play and in our genius, so that we can rely on other people to do what they need to do and get that freedom back in our lives? So many times that we're building businesses, but we're not creating freedom. We're creating a monster. We're creating something that we're constantly feeding, constantly at worked on. And so for women, men typically do this. They create strategic partnerships. So they look for ways to help out, and men have no problem asking for help. Like they're typically I see like they'll be headstrong around some things, but they'll majority of the time they know, like when we were talking to our business mentor and continue to talk to, he's like, it's all about the relationships. Build the relationships. You'll never have a problem putting a dollar into your bank account. And so many times as women in business, we think, okay, I've got to start this business. I got to get it started. I can't let people know I'm struggling. I can't let my family know that I put money on this credit card. And we have this shame around using money to create a better lifestyle. So I find it interesting that a lot of the training that I'm looking at from women that are teaching business, they use a great word, and I love this word, but I think it's being used so incorrectly, or at least this phrase. They say you're creating a heart-centered business. But one thing I've learned working with Karen and working with women over the years is that heart-centered doesn't mean it's just a to-do list of things to do. And when I'm looking through these programs and they say, oh, I've got a heart-centered business, they say, okay, here's how to create a business that'll always put cash in your bank account. Here's how to market endlessly. Here's how to do this. But they don't touch upon the emotional or the energy that is being used or not being used by you trying to continuously do it on my own. Oh, I've got to retire my husband. I've got to take care of my children. I've got to do this. Like there's so many I's as women. And I'm like, well, what if you brought in more people? What if you have your team working with you? What does that look like in terms of the female business versus the male business? So there's so much belief, even in the corporate world, right? Don't bring your kids into work. Yet as an entrepreneur, as a woman, you bring your children to work. They're living in the house with you, right? So I think it's interesting when we talk about what's the difference between being a female in business, a female entrepreneur in business, is differentiating and giving back women the language and the emotion and the feeling. Like Karen said, if you're going to be a heart-centered business, then the one thing I do highly recommend is taking 5 minutes and getting heart-centered. Like, do you even know what that means? And if you don't, I'll let Karen explain. Karen, what does it mean to be heart-centered, not just as a catchphrase for the type of business you're running, but actually in terms of the energy and where like you're growing from?
I mean, this is a very loaded question. So
She just set you up.
yeah. This is
drives
a
me insane.
very loaded question because I'm going to say what I'm going to say, but it's probably going to fly over a lot of people's heads, unfortunately. And I wish it didn't. But I know that I'm still going to say it. So the thing with leading with your heart is it has zero logic connected to it. There is literally no thought process that goes with it. Here's the thing that I've learned. Your brain thinks, but your heart knows. Period. End of story. So a lot of times we are posed with a question or a problem in our business. Maybe we're struggling to scale, maybe we're struggling to whatever. And a lot of times we go into it with a logical thought process. And there's nothing wrong with that. I love my logical mind. I love being able to play with my logical mind. But when it makes us sick is when we are trying to figure it out from this level of, oh my God, I have these problems. Oh my God, we can't pull ourselves out of the situation and suddenly become the observer. We're so inundated with the problem. We can't extract ourselves. We're so logically trying to make it work, logically trying to make it happen, trying to figure out the how a lot of times. And when you're sitting there trying to figure out the how, this is probably the number one program that keeps myself stuck as well as other female entrepreneurs. Exactly.
I'll raise my hand twice, couple
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. We all do this. This is literally just a human condition because we've been taught since childhood that, and I catch myself when I'm talking to my niece, teaching her how to logically think through things. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that. But there's never a question of, well, how do you actually feel about that? Like, is there another way to look at this? It's always a logical thinking about XYZ in order to make something happen. That's not how your heart works. Your heart simply knows the direction forward.
Yeah.
Your heart simply just knows. I find myself when I'm finding myself struggling to fall asleep, struggling something in business, struggling with whatever, I find myself, this is my program now. I find myself putting my hands over my heart and spending some time there. Where your focus goes, energy flows. So putting your focus instead of on the logical reasoning of how is this going to work? What's going to happen? You're putting your focus on your brain, right? You're making yourself exhausted and this is the definition of burnout.
They actually call that decision fatigue.
It is
100%. When you've got to make so many decisions over and over again because you're stuck in the logic, it's actually decision fatigue.
100%. And so I find myself when I'm in this state, I'll put my hands over my heart. This is the best way to fall asleep, just in case you were wondering. And sometimes I'll wake up like this. And I know that I've rolled over in my sleep, but somehow I wake up with my hands on my heart because I've practiced this so much. So it's just like anything that you do repetitively over and over again, your brain now starts to go, oh, this is what we're doing. And so I've put so much focus and attention on my heart center and allowing my heart to lead that it's become more of a habit. It's become more of who I want to be. I've broken the habit of being myself with the logic, and I've created a new habit of focusing on my heart and letting my heart be the front and center. Because a lot of times when you are logically thinking through, how many times have we as women logically thought through and been like, well, this honestly makes the most sense. This will be the most impactful for this person if I do it this way. But something doesn't feel right about it. But we still move forward. Yeah. We still move forward anyways.
Yeah.
We still we're like, logically, it makes so much sense though. So I'm just going to do it, but it just doesn't feel right. And I don't really know why. And so because I can't tell you a why, I'm just going to move forward anyways. And we find ourselves in this stuck place doing this over and over again. And we find ourselves burning out. We find ourselves literally just hating what we're doing at the end of the day because we've never tuned in to what does our heart actually want. And this is a practice. This isn't something that most people have not been taught to do this. I know I was not taught to do this. I was taught to logically think through. Yeah, you logically think through. When you're a child, you're explaining to the child why we don't put our hands on the stove or whatever, right? Like we're logically explaining that through. But there's never like a whole process of the feeling process behind things that we taught, especially in Western culture, let's be honest.
Yeah.
In other cultures, maybe, but in Western culture, not so much. So it's a change. It's a totally different way to look at your life and your business. And it can completely like renovate, rejuvenate everything for your business. I was just on vacation this last week and I needed it. I really did. I've come back and I'm like, oh my God, why was I ever logically trying to think through any of it? Why didn't I just go, I need some space. I need to just let that go. It's not for me. And before I went on vacation, I think I said this on one of our other Truth Bomb lives, but it might have been within our community as well. I had a very profound mystical experience in a meditation where the main message was you can let this go.
Yeah.
And that happened right before I went on vacation for a reason, because I truly believe I was prepping myself for more love at the end of the day, because I literally am just like, oh my God, my life's amazing. I fucking love it. Like, I wasn't necessarily feeling like that all the time before I went on vacation. And so that, like, looking at that and going, wow, I prepped myself for a really cool experience. And for now, I can actually like experience life a little bit more differently. And one thing I've discovered is there's always more heart. There's always more love. There is no end. And I wish that didn't go over my head years ago. And I'm hoping it doesn't go over everyone's head, but I also know that it can. So just realize there's always more love.
Well, and I think what you point on, do you have anything to add to that?
No.
I think what you point onto inside of that too is that sometimes no matter where we're at in our business journey, we need to hear that phrase around, there's always more love, there's always more of what we can have. And when we listen to, especially as women, into our hearts, we get out of the analytical, we get back into that heart, we get back into that heart center, that heart energy, that heart vulnerability. It really opens up doors faster for us in so many different areas of our life that we thought would be closed down to us, unavailable. So it's interesting when you say, what is it, a heart center business? When I'm looking at these business programs, and I've got one in the top of my mind, it's all action steps. It's literally a series of checklists to check off to move your business forward, which I know works. I'm not even doubting that without saying I've put together enough of those checklists in my career. As a coach, as a business coach, as a marketing coach, right? Like there's years of experience that I have. The thing is that it always felt inauthentic to me. It never came across in a way that actually made sense for me as a woman, but it makes logical sense in the world of business, right? So logically, it makes sense. Here's a checklist. Here's a series of activities that I do these things. And if I do it over a long enough period of time, the results will come. Feel better? Yeah, you're coughing on both sides, by the way. So you're still clapping on clapper, whatever. I'm gonna.
I don't hear you.
I do. It's in my ear, so I hear her on clapper when she coughs. Did you? Because I still hear you. That's crazy. Because you're not muted on my side.
I was muted on Zoom, but let's keep going because that's not exciting.
No, it's not Zoom. I hear you on clapper. Anyways. But what's interesting is that, as women I just lost my train of thought. I got so distracted. Where was I?
Well, I have a question that goes wrong with what you were
Okay.
saying, because you're talking about the to-do list and the logical side of business and
Yeah.
how we know that works because we've seen it work. That's how
Absolutely.
businesses have been built
Yep.
for hundreds of years.
Yep.
And it's like, and you still see that training out there from men and women.
Yep.
That's what the training is entailing. It's like you just keep going until it's like you basically the first couple of years is just grind away. You grind and you give and you sacrifice a lot of things that you really value. You sacrifice all of your free time to get this business going. So logically, that makes a whole lot of sense. It doesn't feel good. It makes us feel horrible most of the time. We're not happy. We're just grinding away because that's what we do, because we do what others won't do so that we can have what others don't have later on.
Correct.
Is the saying.
Right.
So with this new way of building a business and taking more of what's in our heart and how our heart feels and how does that help you build that business that needs all of those things done?
So this is where I truly believe it's the yin and yang. So what we've been taught around building a business is work. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm not saying that checklist isn't super important. If you want to generate leads and sales, you've got to take actions. Like there are actions you have to take in business to produce. You have to tell people what business you're in.
You have to tell them what you do.
You have to tell them what you do. If you never tell people what they do, they cannot, there's no sign posted on you that says, I do this, right? There's no signposting, right? So yes, if I want a brick and mortar store, I put up a sign, I tell people what's in the store, right? This is the one thing I love about our group is that we have both storefront and we have digital. And a lot of times in the digital space, we end up doing a lot more work. I think in the terms of marketing, we do a lot more energy, like logically putting stuff out there. And we're told in the digital marketing space as we're building businesses that you don't sell, you share, you don't do this, you don't do that. But the opposite is this, if you're in a physical building where you have product to sell, you better be selling something every single day or you don't have doors open.
Right.
So every day a brick and mortar is selling every single day. You get into coaching, the business world, digital products, and the feeling that I get from a lot of the gurus out there and a lot of things I still see is don't be promoting your product every day. Don't be talking about this. You want to come at this as a different approach. So my thing is business. Strategically, even within our Female Business Academy, you have to know what business you're in. Clarity, step one. What is the business you want to be in?
What is your idea?
What is your idea? What's the product you're going to sell? Like you can't just not have a product to sell. I mean, as everybody reminds me, is even myself, I'm not buying air. Every time I go to the store, I'm buying, food. I'm buying a physical product, something tangible in the world. So the creativity piece of it is that you have to have a tangible product. That's what we talked about in the most viable product. What's the one product that's going to make you the money that you're going to focus on to start generating that revenue? One of the things we have to understand as women, though, is that we have to break. And I don't mean break down. I mean, like have times of rest. What ends up happening in the traditional business strategy and planning that we're following is that there is no time to rest, right? Because for women, we have family, home, house, this. If you talk to a guy, he goes, I get up, I go to work, I come home, everything's taken care of for me, right?
Magically.
So the thing that we have to teach women is, yes, the process exists and it does absolutely. You want to create $1 billion business, absolutely follow the business plan. We built that business plan and that structure to honor that that work, right? Because we didn't say that what the men were teaching us in this traditional business plan didn't work. We didn't say that at all. I know it works. And without a doubt, I can continue to make thousands of millions of dollars traditionally following that.
And be miserable the whole time.
And just question where am I in the process? And I think for women, a lot of the times the question we have is where am I in building this business? Because we're so focused on taking care of others. We're so focused on serving other people that we get caught up in that ongoing to-do list that never stops, because it's not just the business that we're in a to-do list for. It's our entire families. It's our entire health. It's our entire And the thing that I find really fascinating is that most women don't know how to tap into their bodies. They're not even aware that there's something from the neck down in their life, right? They're ashamed of their boobs. They're ashamed of their stomach. They're ashamed of their arms. They're ashamed of whatever, right? And the women that do love themselves, that's the few and far between. But how many of us women go up to another woman and go, oh my God, I love that shirt. It looks fabulous on you. With nothing around it, but just to compliment another female. What would it look like if we walked into a room with all these other women and actually worked together with them instead of seeing them as our competition? I love Pinterest marketing, right? I truly love Pinterest marketing. I love the logistics behind it. I love the collaboration behind it. And my one wish was that all the female or everybody that was teaching Pinterest, which at the time was a lot of women, I said, what if we all came together and started sharing our secrets to better help our audiences? Instead, I got served a notice saying that I'm teaching the same thing somebody else is teaching. They got into competitive mode with me, but we're teaching the exact same thing. Pinterest doesn't change. To run an ad on Pinterest is the same freaking click steps, no matter who teaches it, right? So if you're going to start competing with people that are in your industry instead of collaborating to make a better experience for everybody, you're in such competitive mode that it's not even fair anymore, right? And it's such a beat up, angry place to come from. Why not come together and collaborate? That's one thing I love about Truth Bomb Academy, because I want women truthfully to come in and celebrate other women, share their success. Like, let them in, say, well, this is what we do in our business. Great. Take it or leave that piece of information. But the thing around this is that when women come together and start sharing what they're doing in business, when they start sharing their experience, there's a sisterhood that gets created. There's a freedom that gets created. And then inside of that, what I think Karen does beautifully well is we weave in those moments of rest. We teach you how to create and get back into your true self. We teach you how to connect back into your body as a woman. We teach you how to find the energy, how to say no, so that you can continue to expand and grow as a human being. We teach you what it is to be heart-centered as a woman, not as a catchphrase, not as something that it's a to-do list, but really a feeling of. You know, women feel, and we've been told for so long that we shouldn't feel, that we shouldn't express our emotions. Emotional intelligence is knowing how your body feels, knowing how to express that, knowing that you've got so much pent-up emotion inside of you because you don't know how to explain it, express it, or even acknowledge it, because we've been told for so long in traditional business marketing and business strategy that you don't do anything with your feelings. Unfortunately, women do have feelings. And this is our intuition. This is where we tap in. And the more we cut that off in our training and education as a female entrepreneurs, the more we're doing damage to our women. And I'm no longer okay with that. And that's my rant. You're welcome.
Well, I mean, one thing that happens when we get into this competitive place is we are living in survival mode. We're literally living in a state of fight or flight, because in order with a competition, somebody has to win. Yes. I mean, look at the animal kingdom, right? Like as a lion and a zebra in the animal kingdom, like somebody's gonna win. Either someone's gonna outrun or somebody's gonna die. Like that's just the matter of fact. That is survival mode. That's literally the definition of survival mode. You are either running or you're chasing.
Yep.
Who wants to live like that? This is what creates burnout at the end of the day.
Yeah.
When you're living in a state where you're constantly running or chasing the next whatever in your business, you're creating that burnout and that overwhelm. And I choose to not be a part of that world anymore. I literally will sit, I will sit and I will just say, you know, I hear what's going on in the business. I hear it, but I'm choosing not to jump in this boat about what's going on with it, because that's where we are, and that's okay. You know, like I will look at my own business and just be like, okay, like what do I need to change about how I'm looking at this? What do I need to change about me? what program is still running? And a lot of times it's a fight or flight survival program that's still running in the background, this chase or be chased program that's running in the background in my brain that's creating what's been created. And so I'm like, how do I slow that down more? And I ask myself this all the time, how do I slow that down more? How do I just notice more?
Yeah.
Notice more of my life, be grateful on a deep, heartfelt level of where I am, no matter what, no matter what's going on. This deep, heartfelt gratitude for where I am, plus this deep, heartfelt gratitude for what I'm creating, like for what I haven't even created yet. I will literally have moments with myself, not even moments, but long times where I'll just sit there and I'll be like, oh my God, like I imagine myself. I don't know how come, but this is something that always pops up in my head. Like I'm in an infinity pool, like one of those pools that you can see like forever and ever. And I'm looking over a great vineyard. Like, I don't know why I'm doing that, but that's just what I think of when I'm thinking of this level of success. And I feel amazing. I feel this deep level of wow in my heart. You know, like that is what creates what you want in your life, not the constantly chase or be chased mentality. This is what creates that burnout that we talk about a lot of times. And that's exhausting.
It is. And the one thing I will say, though, this came up in our conversation this week inside the Truth Bomb Academy around unlocking my millions, is that we have these businesses, we have these products, and so many times as women, especially when we're just getting started, we want to help other people, right? So sometimes we underprice, we don't price, we do for free. And then we're like, but this is exhausting for us. Well, yeah, because you're not getting any energy in return, right? And a lot of the times what ends up happening for women is that they're not asking for the sale. They're afraid to ask for the sale. And the thing is, if you're not asking for the sale, why are you even in business, right? The thing is that, and this is the hardest thing women have to deal with, hands down. Trust me, the first time I asked for a $12,000 coaching client, the first time I asked for a $25,000 coaching client, the first time I asked for a $50,000 coaching client, each one of those took the ability to give up what I believed around asking that, right?
What you believe around money too.
It's a lot of belief around money. Is there an abundance or is there a scarcity of that, right? Is someone really going to pay me that for the coaching I have to offer, the experience they're going to have with me, the one-on-one benefit of it, right? And so there's a lot of times like asking for that for those, if you've never even gotten $1 online, if you don't at least build the truth or the belief that you can make $1 online, if you can make $100 online, if you can make $1,000 online, right? It is the belief that what you have brings value. And one of the things that we end up doing as women is that we believe that the price tag is based on our value, how we perceive ourselves inside this equation. What we teach is that for business, we came up with a really simple formula that we stumbled across by accident. Honestly, it was something that we were learning as we discovered around like how do women set up their products and services? How do we price our goods, especially digital goods, coaching, mentorship programs, course creation, things like that in the digital space. And a lot of times it's arbitrary. It's like this phantom words like, oh, just charge, $297 for it, or just charge $497. And there's some psychology around the 97, I'm not going to lie. But what we found out is a lot of times if you don't have this simple formula in place where it's on a spreadsheet and you say, okay, I'm charging this, and it breaks it down across from you how much you're actually going to profit in selling that product or service, it's a wake-up call for most women, because that's the one thing that we price based on some list that we've been given around, like, if you put this bonus on here, it becomes this much. If you put this bonus, it becomes on this much. And what we discovered is that when you use this simple formula, when you put in, this is what I'm going to charge, and it breaks it down from everything of like, what's the taxes going to cost you? What's the product going to cost you? What are you going to take home in profit? What are you going to take home in your actual physical paycheck? You look at that, and when it says you're making $3 is what you're taking home in a paycheck for putting together that product, you might look at that and go, I think I'm underpricing myself. And it's not you're underpricing yourself, it's you're underpricing the product, right? And even if you have next to nothing in your expenses, if you don't follow this formula, you're going to end up like burning out because you're going to be in this perpetual, I've got to keep creating new products, new something, new blah, 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 which is what they tell you. The reality is you don't. You can have one or two like flagship products and let that be your perpetual income stream. And then you can have one-offs, but it's not necessary. And I've seen so many of us as entrepreneurs get caught up in the perpetual recreation product of something. Look at it this way. Your phone has just been upgraded. Every time there's a new version of your phone, all it is an upgrade. It takes nothing to go back into a course, a product, or something and just deliver one extra piece of content, one extra piece, like increase the overall training in there. And you don't have to do it all at once. It can be a slow process of you listening to your audience and then delivering what they need. Stop trying to have everything done, ladies, before you sell and start selling, right? There is nothing wrong with you asking to get paid for services. Just as like there's nothing wrong with you going to the store and paying for your groceries. You don't even think about it, right? The price goes up and we're still paying it. Right?
When gas was $4 a gallon, we
were
still
paying it.
traveling.
We were still traveling. You were still on the road. So we have to get out of this mindset that people aren't going to pay for what it is. Well, when you look at what we teach inside of Unlocking My Millions, and we get away from treating people as objects, and we start looking at who is your customer, because I hear it all the time. It's like the background noise to all the crap you're seeing on the internet. It says it's about building in-depth relationships with your customers. It's about going deeper than just the surface and actually going under, building that long-term. And women are phenomenal at this. We connect and continue to build that relationship. I promise you, when you go through how we design and how you create your audience, your avatar, your traditional words out there. We've actually rephrased it inside of Unlocking My Millions because we recognize that most women weren't getting the language. So we actually had to go through and say, okay, what is it that how does this make you feel? We actually had to go into more feeling language to get across the same point that was being taught in the business traditional language. We actually had to incorporate more words like desire and connection and things that typically you don't see in a business planning structure.
What about our favorite?
Pleasure. Yeah, the word pleasure became like a big thing. We started talking about, instead of designing vision boards, women design pleasure boards. And I don't mean sex. Everybody goes there with sex, by the way. And we talk about the experience that you want to create, the feeling you want to create in your life, and how that helps you manifest faster. Because again, it goes to a lot of what Karen teaches inside of Unlocking the Millions. Reconnect back to your heart, reconnect, feel your way through that, trust your intuition. She talks about the believing, thinking, feeling loop, right? She talks about how to just take 5 minutes and get recentered back in the present moment, let everything go. We had to incorporate what a lot of what we've been told is woo-woo. I love that quoting crap shit that doesn't actually mean anything, because it's not woo-woo. It's just what is already in existence in the world. It's been made taboo. It's been made like inappropriate. But the thing is, women, once we start taking back our language to describe how we feel, and we start doing what we need to get ourselves presence to the emotions and the feelings that we are made to experience, business sure heck gets so much more entertaining. Like you talked about it, Karen, that immersion of being in your business, because it's not like your life is separate from your business. It's like your family's there, your business is there, your health is there, your faith is there, everything. It's now synergistically created instead of compartmentalized for how women real. And then you really get to experience and feel everything that's going on in your life, which we've been told doesn't happen, but women, we are meant to feel. So let's embrace that, and let's look at the type of language we need to use to explain or express how we want to build a business. And it's the yin to the yang. It's not an or, It's not like this is better than that. That goes back to your earlier question.
Mhm.
We need actions, right? Like we need actions, and we need to start reincorporating that feeling piece. And we've talked about this since the beginning. It's the blend. It's the blurring back of the lines and bringing back in that. And that's what makes Unlocking My Millions so much fun to not only facilitate, but I'm learning every day when I talk to these women that are in extraordinary businesses or creating businesses again, because they have suffered such burnout, but they want to create a business, but they want to do it in a more holistic, fun way and have better results. And they're getting better results than they ever have before in the little period of time, all because now they have words to explain and express how they're building their business.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, it's like, why are you building this business? So we talk about, it's like, you do the things now that other people won't do so that you have what other people don't have. Well, also you have to consider what you're sacrificing. You're sacrificing, if you're grinding women, you're not a man. You're not a man. Realize it. You don't cycle the same way. What you're sacrificing is you're sacrificing your health. You're sacrificing the relationships. And if it's like, so if you're doing what you're not supposed to be doing because your body is not made, you need to rest.
Yeah.
Those down times, you actually need to take those down times.
Sitting on the couch eating chocolate. Yes, please.
Taking a week off on vacation and knowing that your business is not going to collapse and refresh so that you come back refreshed and you actually have something to give to your business. Because ladies, you're not a man. Just going to say it. You're not a man.
Hormonally,
your body is different. You're different. You have a uterus. You have a vagina.
You got boobs. Well, not everybody.
Well,
I get it.
But still, it's like your body is not a man's, and neither is your emotions, not is your physicality. And it's just, and we can't work like a man and still maintain your health and relationships in your life.
And what's interesting is I know this is every time I talk to a successful businesswoman and I tell them what we're creating for women, they're like, dear God, yes. They're always a yes for what we're creating because they recognize. So it's interesting. They recognize that women actually need a different way to build a business, but women are starting to recognize that they need a different way to build a business. And the education didn't exist for that different way that spoke to women, that enabled them to really ask for whatever they desire. You want a pay raise? Come through Unlocking My Millions. You want more income? You want more time freedom? You want more family freedom? You want more spiritual freedom in your life? Come through Unlocking My Millions, because you will find that in this space, it's safe for women to really express themselves fully. You get the sense of having a different perspective. What you thought was wrong, you're like, oh, okay, like I'm not going crazy. Because I think a lot of times women go, I feel like I'm going crazy because of what I'm being taught, right? So we had to look at like just shifting that conversation for women. Yes, you are going to have to market. Yes, you are going to have to open up a business bank account. Yes, you are going to have to know who your audience is. Like the general fundamentals of running a business haven't changed. What has changed is your approach to women as we do this. And the beautiful thing is that men want women to succeed. And if they could find any way, a better language, a better description to how women succeed, they are like crying out for that. So it took for me hearing the men say, I want women to succeed. I just don't know how. I'm giving them the game plan. Why isn't this working? It's working for everybody else. It's working for some women, but not all women. And the reason being is that it isn't written in the woman's language. It's not in the feeling, physiological, emotional, health, everything. And I think it's been really interesting that the men are absolutely 100% cheering us on, and the women are still out there questioning, is this really going to work? Like, can you? Because we've only had one direction in which we've played this game. So it's really interesting. I love it. I do. So with that, we're wrapping up. We are live here on our YouTube channel. If you're watching us live on YouTube, just give us a thumbs up and subscribe. If you're hanging out with us on our Clapper family, hi Clapper family. definitely check out Unlocking My Millions. If you head up above, there should be a link in either mine or Truth Bombs Marketing's description that will allow you to come learn more about Unlocking My Millions. If you have questions, ask. Oh my gosh, asks. We know that we are still refining our language and our conversation, so please ask questions. And if you're here on our YouTube channel, down in the description below, there's absolutely more information about how to get started in unlocking your millions as a female entrepreneur, because we are here to collaborate, have play, and really create more female millionaires in the world, but ultimately to unlock the true potential of being a female business owner in all aspects of your life. So with that, everybody, have a phenomenal day, and we'll see you hopefully inside the Truth Bomb Academy. Head over to truthbombmarketing.com and get started today. We'd love to see you. Bye, everyone.